Are live. It's Friday night. Uh, we're about 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. So I chose this time to get on today and just talk about the week. It's been a pretty eventful, week. To be perfectly honest, a lot of things to talk about, and something new for those that were following the Walter Barton situation in Missouri. There's something new now that we are trying to help someone else who is in a similar predicament. Um, there's a petition, which you will find down in the description below, for Julius Jones, and we'll talk about Julius Jones over the course of this video today, amongst other things, like the state asking for a higher word count and being granted that higher word count, and what that would potentially mean, and whether or not I think that they're going to file on the 29th, I think when it's due, right? So whether I think they're going to be filing on the 29th or not, yeah, I'll share my thoughts about that, along with Jerry Buting's thoughts about that for you guys to get a better idea. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Is this past week? There's been a lot of things, a lot of stuff going on. Like I said, more than a normal period, I would say, at least, right? Because we've all been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, right? Well, you guys know we had Mammothon recently, which was a huge success and a lot of fun and very informative. I really learned a lot of things watching Mammothon and watching a lot of other people's guests. I think all of my guests had very, very wonderful things and pertinent things to say, like Steve Moore, Sydney, Dr. Silkman, Jeff, my friends, Sam William Henry, 582, Jamie Hart, Sharon, and just everybody that that went into making it great. But it was, some of the things, listening to the wrongfully convicted people that were on, I thought was particularly interesting. And it just brought home to me that we, the community that are fighting for Stephen and Brennan, really does need to just take a little bit of an interest in other wrongful convictions in general. I think it would be a huge thing if the community itself begins to understand the positive effect that will have. What's this weekly call? It's called the Week in Review. That's what I called it. So I guess if that means a weekly call to you, then yeah, I guess. 2020 has certainly been anything but average, but I'm not here to talk about COVID-19. And besides, I think people would rather hit me with a sledgehammer than listen to anybody else talk about COVID-19 right now. So I think I'll just stay away from that topic. And so, yeah. All right. So let's start from the start, right? The state asked for a higher word limit for their response to Kathleen Zellner and Stephen Avery's motion for appeal. They asked for a higher word count. It was granted. And for those who didn't hear about that, anyways, so that's what happened. So the state, I believe this means that we will be seeing the state's response, on or before the 29th, I believe is the due date. So I believe we'll be seeing it before then. The reason why I believe that is because I believe, as Jerry Buting does, he said in the tweet that I showed in the previous video, but he basically said that what's happened here most likely is the state has finally finished the brief and it's ready, it's done, it's edited, and now the words have been counted and they're realizing that they're over. And so now they're asking for more words because they want to keep it the way it is, right? So that's what he believes is happening. I kind of think he may be on to something. I believe he may be right. So I believe we can expect the state's response basically next week, So that ought to be interesting. And, so that ought to be interesting. So, anyways, I can't wait to see what they're going to say. I mean, I got to tell you guys, I'm very, very intrigued to see what they intend to argue, how they intend to argue it. Because the fact is that the statute does say that you're not supposed to give away biological evidence like that could potentially be exculpatory for the defendant without, a number of things happening, which none of them happened, or at least one of a number of things happening, which none of them happened. I mean, it's proven that they made no attempt to make anybody aware of what they were doing with those bones in 2011. And that's clearly obvious here. And I mean, it's the fact that they're working so hard to hide it that also screams, we are doing something wrong. We're doing something wrong, and so we're trying to hide it so that nobody will ever see it. So that's really the way it all falls to me. So it's to me, it's going to be interesting to see the way they want to argue it and the way they're going to argue it. They only needed 10 words, as Judge Suck at This would finish it for them. Right, ADA Sukowitz. Absolutely. Oh, dear, yeah. I did not know that this is going to be great, really. Let's see. I'm looking at it at least some kind of progress. I know they won't back down, but the wheels are turning at least. Well, I mean, yeah. So now they're ready they finally figured out what they want to say. You know what I mean? They've finally got themselves together and they've got an argument that they're willing to put forth, that they've asked for the higher word limit because they're ready to submit it. So, ought to be interesting. I'm intrigued. I'll be reading it, obviously, and I'll be looking through it. Oh, Mammothon. Yes, absolutely, Linda. Mammothon was phenomenal. It was absolutely great. But, that's why I say we all gotta remember to try and take a little bit of an interest in other wrongful convictions and in the innocence community. I think it's an important factor for us to be a part of the innocence community in sense of the innocence projects and to learn from the information that is coming from those projects and in those places and everything, and then also by kind of by working together, we kind of make each other's communities bigger by working together. So I think it's ultimately the best step, and obviously that one of the ways to ultimately work towards the change that we want to see, for the change we want to see, so that things like what happened to Stephen Brennan don't happen again and again and again. So in order to get those things happening, we have to also kind of look at criminal justice system as a whole. And by the way, I'm not asking anybody to forget about Avery Dassey. I know you guys are all deeply passionate about Avery Dassey. That's why you guys all go through the documents with a fine-tooth comb in Avery Dassey. I'm not asking for that kind of attention in other wrongful convictions, but like I said, knowing the bullet points of other wrongful conviction cases, knowing the bullet points of those cases, and the obvious indicators that existed in those cases that scream out wrongful conviction. And once you start to see enough cases where you see enough of the same things popping up over and over again, you start to recognize potential wrongful convictions when you see them. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. Anyone want to take a look at my nephew's case? He was just sent to prison, was completely railroaded by the town he's from. We certainly could take a look at it, Amber. If you want to bring some of the stuff into Discord after we're done here, we can check it out. I'm like I said, if I won't just jump on any case because somebody tells me that somebody's wrongfully convicted, but I'll look at the case, and if I look at it and if I see cause and concern, I will certainly talk about it. So that would be my answer, Amber. So yeah, if you want to bring some of that stuff into Discord later, do so, and we'll check it out. It's going to be so interesting. What are they going to try to fight on the bones? I mean, what the heck can they say? Yeah. And what can they say about the bones? And then what about the CD? And that BS about we gave them the 7 DVDs on December 13th or whatever it is, 1 month before Denny's due and everything, basically 2 months before trial, where they're turning this when they had it for 8 months previous. You know what I mean? So turning these 7 DVDs over and not turning over the forensic analysis that was done that the state paid for. I mean, see, to me, it really is. It's wrong that the state can spend all the money at once, and then it doesn't even have to share. It doesn't have to share those forensic results. Really? That's okay. How's that okay? Because defendants don't have the kind of resources the state has. So to assume that the defendant in due diligence should do it is ridiculous. Anyway. Hey there, Travis. What's up, buddy? Hey, Jane. Everybody should go check out Jane Sharp's channel, new YouTube channel. Also, Lil Misty, Diane Lil Misty speaking with conviction. They had a brilliant guest on recently, Clive Stafford. Looking forward to speaking to that gentleman again, especially after what happened to Walter Barton this week. I now have a renewed eagerness to speak with Mr. Stafford. And we're going to see what we can do about fighting for people on death row that have serious flaws with their convictions. I may have to, make that one of my goals as I move into looking at more and more wrongful convictions here on my channel. I may have to try and do a bit of focusing on people on death row that have uncovered significant amounts of evidence that would suggest they have been wrongfully convicted. I would like to know about those and speak about those, because those are basically the wrongfully convicted men who need the most help, because they're on a limited clock. So that's kind of a direction I'm looking to head. So let's see. What do you think, Travis, about what the state may do? Yeah, Travis, do you think the state's ready to file like Jerry Buting does? So but Clive Stafford anyway, looking to talk to him more, because that's essentially what he was talking about, where he was saying he runs a little project where he fights to help people on death row that are maybe wrongfully convicted or whatever. It's like what he does and stuff. And he was just saying that he was talking about that Jane and Diane are already working for him, and but he was saying that the kind of tools that he can teach, are kind of simple, and almost anybody can do them. Now, ultimately, to get into court, you're going to need a lawyer. But he was saying that actually on his staff, I think what was it, Jane, where he said like he had 50 people, and I think he said that like maybe 12 of them were lawyers, that actually had a law degree. You know what I mean? Most of the work they do, I guess there's just, anyways, I'm very eager to talk to Clive Stafford again, because I want to kind of learn more about what him and his little agency, what they do. I'm very intrigued, because it was very sad what happened to Walter Barton this week, folks. I mean, there's some convincing suggesting, as some pretty suggestive evidence that seems fairly convincing that Walter Barton may have been wrongfully convicted by overzealous prosecutors. There's a lot of evidence to suggest it. It's sad. And folks, his final words. Well, I can show you his final words, actually, folks, if you want. I'll show them to you. Let me just get it ready for you. And we'll show you. These are the final words, the last words of Walter Barton before he was executed on Tuesday, May 19th. So there it is. Let me go ahead and make it full screen. So this is him right here. So his last words: I, Walter Arkey Barton, am innocent, and they are executing an innocent man. And when you look at the specifics in this case, folks, it is pretty bad, you know. So now they got the same word limit. They may want another 30 days to adjust. So I'm a little apprehensive. They were kind of late to request that. Okay, so Travis thinks maybe it might. So we might maybe see another extension, Travis thinks. And that's, I mean, I can see that reasoning, maybe. Jerry seemed to think that they had it all completed and edited and ready to go. And then they counted the words and that it was over. And that's why they were asking for it. But I can see what Travis is suggesting as well. So 35 staff, 7 lawyers. There it is. Jane came in with it. Reprieve.org. There you go. Yeah, I want to learn a lot more from that gentleman, Mr. Clive Stafford. So I have some questions for him the next time they get together with him. Hopefully they'll do it on a weekend because generally during the week it's a fluke if I'm home, which it just happened to be. I was home on Monday this week, but anyways. So that was another interesting event this week. So we had the state asking for and receiving an extension in the word limit or receiving a higher word limit for their response. We had the thing on Tuesday with Walter Barton in Missouri. Unfortunately, they executed him anyway. So we are now, obviously now looking forward to this response. Now, if Travis is right and we're waiting another 30 days, that'll be a bummer. But if Jerry's right and we're going to have that response before the end of this month, then that's going to be good, because that's going to be something for us to talk about and look at and see what the state is actually trying to do at this point. We have really no indicator, because the last argument we received was the arguments of Judge Sukowitz in her decision. So anyways, it's wild. But so that's what's been going on this week. Now, in what's been happening, and what happened with Walter Barton this week, there is now another petition going around. I would like to, you heard me talk about it at the beginning of this. Julius Jones, if you guys would go and take a look at. The link is in the description down below. And Travis, okay, so but that link is down below, so please go over and sign that. I'm trying to. There's enough there, at least for for those of you who may say, well, I don't know if he's innocent. For me, folks, going over and taking a look at that petition, don't make it about whether or not he's innocent. Just take a look at what the petition says and make your best determination on whether or not you think he should be on death row. Okay? You know what I mean? See if there's enough question for you if you think he should have a chance to fight his wrongful conviction, or if you think the state should be able to just get rid of its problem easily. So I leave you guys to make that. When you go over to the petition, it tells you the bullet points of what's going on with this case and that sort of stuff. So I leave it to you guys to determine whether you feel there's enough question. But I think there is. And I encourage everybody to go over and sign that petition, because I believe at the very least there is enough question that I don't want him killed before he has the chance to set it right. Hello, Paula Bradley. Okay, so Travis says he agrees with that, but having written a number of these, the word count is right at the bottom of Word. So you know in real time where you are at. It might very well be that they are ready to go. Yeah. Okay, well, we'll see. We'll definitely see, Trav. Let's see. So here's the other rub. They have briefs professionally printed there, like in the U.S. Supreme Court. So if that's their normal practice, there could be a holdup if the legal printer company is down. Oh, jeez. That's funny, Travis. You know what? That would be ridiculous. I would think the Court of Appeals would say, okay, we don't need your fancy letterhead. Send it on over. Brother. That's funny. And yeah, this stuff should anger everyone, because, I mean, if it's number one, folks, number one, you guys have been sitting here listening to me talk about Stephen and Brendan, talking about, data that comes out of the Innocence Projects and all that sort of stuff. And you know how often we get it wrong. It's being proven by DNA that we are getting it wrong a hell of a lot more than anybody thought. Because a lot of these practices that still result in wrongful convictions are still persisting, because the old salty dogs in the legal system aren't willing to change. So it's a nasty situation. But the data coming out of the Innocence Projects and stuff is telling us that we're not getting it right nearly enough to be thinking we have the right to determine to take life. Honestly, we don't. If we were getting it right, or at least getting it wrong less, and we were getting it right more of the time, then maybe we could entertain the notion of that. But as it is right now, we're doing a terrible job. The evidence is showing us we're doing a terrible job. And if we're doing a terrible job, we certainly shouldn't be playing with people's lives. So that's basically how I feel about that. But by all appearances, they are ready to go. Yeah, it does appear that way. Let's see here. We want it now. No more delays, right? Oh, that's funny. I'll never change. Travis will never change, folks. I'll never change. Let's see. Amen. Needs to change and adapt to modern times and the death penalty. Well, yeah. I mean, if we find out things like 25% of all murder convictions that involved a confession, 25% had a false confession. It's like, really? We're getting that many false confessions? I mean, I don't know. It's just bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. The stats coming out of the Innocence Project are showing us that we are not getting it right nearly enough to be playing with people's lives. That's the other thing. I don't think anybody's thinking about the death penalty when they're in the heat of passion and committing whatever crime it is. I mean, generally you're never thinking about that kind of stuff. When you go off and start brawling with somebody and suddenly a fatal accident happens, you know what I mean? Or it goes too far and something tragic happens. You know what I mean? I mean, yeah. But it's nobody ever thinks about the death penalty when that happens. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, great show tonight, Linda. You would typically be looking to send to the printer this week to have it by Friday. Okay, all right. Yeah, the death penalty is fraught with issues. I mean, it's pretty obvious for many reasons really, but for me the big reason is that it's pretty obvious that we're not getting it right. We're getting it wrong quite often. And so therefore we have no business taking something that we can't give back when we're clearly getting it wrong so much and so often. Oh, so what else this week? That's basically it. I mean, obviously now we're looking forward to the state's response. Tracy Keogh, I haven't got to see it yet, but Tracy Keogh made a pretty cool video, I think, about Brendan. I believe it was a video that I saw, about a boy that I've been meaning to watch. But I love Tracy Keogh, and she puts together some really great stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. But that also was something this week. It's getting interesting. The filing, well, no matter what, even if it's electronically filed, they're going to want their fancy letterhead, whatever bordering and whatever else they're going to want, right? That's no matter what. And so they'll end up scanning those documents to send electronically. Funny you should say that. Surprisingly enough, even with diehard supporters, it depends on the type of case. I was just going to say, when they get it wrong so many times, how can anybody decide someone should die? Right, exactly. Do you think foul play should release Brendan's prison calls? Paula, no, I don't. I personally don't want to go against Brendan's wishes. I believe those calls have been gone through thoroughly. I don't believe there's really going to be anything there of evidentiary value necessarily. However, the person that filed the FOIA and received all of those, I believe they have every right to listen to and check through and see if there's anything there that might be of help. Because, and I say this because we all saw Jerry Buting himself sharing, something that was pointed out by supporters right after MAM came out. When people realized that Teresa is in the picture of Teresa in front of her RAV4, that she clearly had more keys on her key ring than just one single key. And even he said, oh, look at when more people start taking a look at this, more people start seeing things. And so I remember that. So it could be that a similar situation. But like I said, because I respect Brendan, I really don't want them. I don't really think they should be public. But ultimately, it is what it is. But right now, foul play has them. And I feel confident that if they find anything there that is of interest, that they will probably seek the blessing of, the lawyers or something to be able to share it. So that's what I would envision. But otherwise, no, I don't really think they should be public just because Brendan really doesn't want them to be public. And I just kind of want to go along with Brendan's wishes. There's really no other big motivation for me than that. You'll need to play them for the public. If there's something of interest, then they should share it with the attorneys. And that's also true, that they should share it with the attorneys. If they find anything on those tapes, then they should message Drizzen and Nyrider and say, look, we're listening to this and we're thinking, what happened? What was going on here? And I would think that would be the way to go. And then And then if there are certain clips that maybe are of interest, they can send it to the lawyers first, because you'll always want to be careful with the fact that if it's going to end up getting used in court, you could end up damaging that piece of evidence if you make it public, type of thing. So I don't know, it's a delicate little dance that you have to do when you're, dealing with the courts. Why did they get them then? Just to hide them away. They got them to go through them. And from what I understand, from the person that requested them, and I think maybe one or other or something or two others are looking at them. And like I said, Paula, you're barking up the wrong tree here, because like I said, I know you want to sit here and come off with a bunch of reasons of why you think they should be public. And that's fine. I don't begrudge you your reasons why you feel they should be public. But for me personally, I personally want to go along with what Brendan wants. And for me, that's enough. And I have no other motivation in it other than I'd prefer not to put any undue stress on Brendan, because his life is already crappy enough having to sit in prison every day of his life, so I don't want to be the one making it any crappier. 2 cases in point: the Watt case in Colorado and the one in Idaho right now. The demo. T1's here. What's up, buddy? Hold on a second. The demo following those cases in YouTube comments, skip over GI and go straight to imposing death. Let's see. Question: are supporters who have access to these BD calls forming rebuttals to the inevitable guilt or arguments that come once they are out? You would need to go and ask the people with the calls, T1. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't have the calls, folks. I don't. I think I've probably heard the most pertinent bits that I needed to hear when I was watching Making a Murderer. Personally, I think that's probably the case, but I know the folks over at Foul Play are thorough. They're smart and sharp people over there. And if there is something there that is of interest, I'm fairly sure they'll find it. And T1, if you're worried about if you're concerned about that moment if they do find something interesting, you should go and take that question up with them. And researchers have found so much. Not meaning to fight. I understand, Paul. I'm not trying to fight with you either. I'm just explaining to you kind of just where I stand on it. Did they get Steve's permission to upload his calls? Steve didn't protest, from what I understand. But Steven and Brendan are different people. Steven's been saying, I'm an open book since 1985 now. That's been his life, where he's been saying, I'm an open book. I'm an innocent man. Brendan has had a little bit more. Brendan's not Steven. And Brendan is a little more, introverted. And so he's a bit different than Steven. Not as boisterous and more timid. Travis is the Watts case up for appeal. I thought since he pled guilty and gave the details of the murder to the police that he could not appeal. Brendan was a child at the time. Steven wanted his calls out. Right, there you go. Why would Brendan want the calls to remain private? I'm curious about this. Well, just because it's him having personal conversations with his mom and various people. And he feels like some of it's going to be embarrassing. And he may feel embarrassed being 30 years old in prison and that people are going to be listening to his calls where he's 30 and maybe where he's 30, and I mean, maybe he's conscious of that, where he's realizing that the time he's been in prison, he hasn't been able to mature. He hasn't been able to have kids and responsibilities like other people. And so I think he really realizes and perceives that people might listen to his phone calls and you know what I mean? I don't know what to say other than I think he's self-conscious. And I can't fault him for it. From what I understand, Steve wanted his calls listened to. SAG sounds like they have them. Maybe a lie though. Oh yeah, it could be a lie. I mean, SAIG just likes to stir the pot, so they could be saying that to try to shake up, whatever, some people or whatever. It's probably a stupid thing. But then again, I mean, it's probably, hopefully the calls don't get out, but you can never say for sure. The family want them private. Can you imagine what Barb, Scott, and Bobby are saying? I love Brendan. He's a great guy. Someone else is in the process of releasing them anyhow, so everyone can make up their own mind to listen. Well, that may happen. I mean, that there may be nothing that can be done about it. But like I said, I think the best thing for true supporters, people who really support Brendan and Steven, is to honor their wishes. And in this case, Steven wanted his calls shared. Brendan didn't. So, what does inconsistent mean? You see, Brendan is severely embarrassed about making statements like this one. You understand that, right? Because that's Travis is quoting Brendan there, folks. So he says that in one of the calls that we see in MAM. Okay? Brendan is not keen to have thousands of people going through his jail calls and listening in to other moments like this one. I don't know. Hopefully some people can understand what I'm saying there. What did you miss? I don't know, Addiction Mouse. What did you miss? I'm not sure. How long have you been gone? 1 minute? 10 minutes? 10 days? 10 months? My concern and question was aimed towards the inevitable guilt or attacks to come and protecting BD from the calls. Oh, well, the potential guilt or attacks, you mean that, so assuming they all become public, you mean, and the guilters listen to them and start trying to construe things in the calls that would imply Brendan's guilt? You're not going to be able to do anything about it, really, other than go and listen to the calls yourself and come up with reasoning that would combat theirs as to what was going on in the call. That makes more sense than what they're saying. What do you do? What do you want to eat when you get out? Cheeseburger it is. Taters or fries? Are you all really interested in that? Are you all really interested in that? I'm sorry, what are you asking? Is that another quote, Travis? I'm not sure about that. I do recall, I think Brendan, when he gets out, wants that go for a cheeseburger and fries. Oh yeah, it was him talking to his mom and Scott. That's right. Just a couple days. When did this about the calls come out? You can send them to Foul Play staff. They did not and will not by any supporter. They haven't been shared at this point in time. So that's the way it currently stands. And the reason why they haven't been shared is because Brendan himself said he didn't want them shared, which brought up the question of, well, why did they share Steven's calls? Steven wanted his calls shared. That's the difference. It was Sunday morning. Dixie Mouse. Sunday morning, go to Foul Plays channel. Sunday morning, they did a whole live talking about it. And you can get all the answers you're looking for from them. So yeah, there's the calls, and that's the current status of those. And like I said, I'm fine with it. I would like to respect Brendan's wishes. I know that the people that FOIA'd those calls are still going to go through them. And so if there's anything in there that is of interest, I am sure that those people there, particularly over in that community, are some of the really, really sharp and diligent researchers here in the Avery Dassey case. And so if there's anything there of interest, I'm sure we'll know about it soon enough. But they can first take it to the lawyers or to the attorneys before they go public with it, just to make sure. So anyway, that's what I envision. So. I mean, if the guilters twist the calls, Foul Play can argue with them if they wish. Yeah, well, like I said, if the calls get released at some point, which they aren't right now, then you do what you normally do. You look, you listen to at that point they will be public. So if the guilter comes at you trying to tell you some argument about the call on this day, that day, whatever, at this time, and you go and you listen to that call and you have a whole different idea of what was being said or what people meant in the conversation, then you can make your arguments. And that's just what we do with everything, right? Just like we've been doing for for me and some others, 4.5 years we've been doing that. We never knew what was coming. We never really knew. We didn't know that when we were reading Queso what we were going to see there necessarily. So we always had to take everything as it came and just argue things logically and sensibly on their merits. So. You don't know that the guilters did. But it's like I say, anybody can FOIA stuff. I mean, so it's possible that the people over at SAIG FOIA'd those calls. And if they did, then they did. That is it's the same thing that the folks at Foul Play did, is they used FOIA. So you can't really fault the fact that they used the same mechanism that Foul Play used to get it, most likely. Now, if somebody over at Foul Play gave it to SAIG, that would be a whole different story. But I am not suggesting that is what happened. I would say most likely the people at SAIG got together and submitted a request. But I guess they have the right. Well, they may not exploit Brendan, but they may try to spin something in those calls to imply Brendan's guilt or many other things like that. So yeah, it would be kind of crappy in that sense. Absolutely. Fellow players, supporters of Brendan, and are doing everything they can to help him. They are doing a decent thing by respecting Brendan's request not to release the calls. Yes, that's exactly right. I guess I'm just going off what the SA. Well, I mean, they're saying they got it, and they maybe they do. I mean, like I said, they have the ability to FOIA the same way the people at Foul Play did. Same way I could FOIA those calls. You know what I mean? That is a thought. Wonder if the ones that do not get on with them did. Well, I don't know, but like I said, the folks over at SAIG aren't like stupid people. They know how to file a Freedom of Information Act request, so they're perfectly capable of doing it on their own. So I'll just leave it at that. So yeah, there was that too, and then like I said, wrapping it all up, it's very sad. Obviously, what happened with Walter Barton this week, folks. May 19th, Tuesday, May 19th, 2020. The state of Missouri killed him, and there's considerable evidence to support that he was wrongfully convicted. And they couldn't even halt the death penalty. They couldn't even just hold back from killing him long enough for it to be fully investigated and fleshed out. They just decided to get rid of their problem by plowing forward. And once he was dead, the problem would go away in their own minds. So I have been making videos and tweeting at them every single day. You guys saw I had one today at noon. That was another one. I tweeted that at Governor Parson in Missouri yesterday. I want everybody to help me continue to do that if we can. As I make these videos about other wrongful convictions in Missouri, if everybody can, get the videos, tweet them at Governor Parsons, tweet them to the governor's Facebook page, to wherever in Missouri, to make it visible in Missouri, just so that the voters know in the upcoming election that he completely ignored evidence that a man might have been innocent and just plowed forward with killing him anyway. And I think the voters should know about that. They should know what kind of guy is sitting there in the governor's office, and if that's the kind of guy they want. Now, there may be some people that are fine with that. There may be some other people who aren't fine with that attitude. So, like I say, I think it's up to the voters of Missouri, but I think they should know, and I think they should be informed. So, everybody help me out with that as I continue to make videos showing that they're clearly getting it wrong quite often in Missouri, because in one of the other things that Governor Parsons said on Monday, the day before they killed Walter Barton, was he said that he wasn't going to be looking into the case and he wasn't going to be whatever, blah, 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 blah. He just basically dismissed it, casually dismissed it and callously dismissed it. So now we have Julius Jones, folks. Julius Jones, like I said, down in the information below is the link to his petition. Please go over and sign Julius's petition, folks. Let's see if we can help out Julius. And just like I said, it's not about getting him out necessarily with the petition. It's just don't kill him before he can try to prove his case and his innocence, right? That's all it is. And to me, it's shocking if a state isn't willing to do that, to halt the execution, to make sure that they're not killing an innocent man. Seems like a sensible thing to do to me, personally. The probability that there are things that hurt Brendan in the public eye is significantly greater. I can't see how a public release is being argued is in Brendan's best interest. Well, there's somebody in the chat here, Trav, Paula, that was kind of the opinion that they should be. I am personally not of that opinion. So you would need to take that up with Paula. All right, Travis is saying, hang on here. All right, so on this execution, back up 1 second. Okay, Travis wants to back up. um. Oh right, yeah. No, but yeah, Paula was. Paula was saying it. But anyway, let's see. How did it? How did it get? Well, the governor was the only one left with the power to do anything about it. What was it, folks? It was like what, like around like 1 or 2 o'clock on Tuesday that they got a decision from the Supreme Court that they weren't going to halt the execution. And the only one left that could do anything about it was Governor Parsons, and he chose not to. And, there was a lot of people making him aware of it. In fact, the Kansas City Star did an article about the fact that he ignored the fact that a lot of people were pointing out that this conviction had some issues with it, and that he ignored it. He just decided not to consider it. Travis, I don't know how much of it came down to a time crunch. I don't know if it was SCOTUS. I think it was the Missouri Supreme Court. And anyways, no matter what, a potentially innocent man died on Tuesday, folks. So I understand Travis has questions, and if he does, I'm sure Tracy Struncy and I can answer those questions for him. So we'll go ahead and get those questions taken care of for Travis another time. I'm going to check out now because I think Foul Play is getting ready to kick off in about 6 minutes over on their channel. If I remember seeing something earlier, I think. Anyway, but that's basically what I wanted to talk about anyway today, folks, was just a few developments of this week, have a little chat, talk about some of that stuff. So it was a pretty eventful week, considering, and it was SCOTUS. Okay. Oh, and the Supreme Court denied the motion. And so why it was conflicting factual evidence. How is it the Supreme Court didn't? Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, I say, for me, if it's a death row case and there's any question, if there's like any kind of question, I mean, you need to take the death penalty off the table. If there's any question, I mean, you can't. We have too much evidence showing us how often we get it wrong. If there's any question to a conviction, for me, to my mind, you have to take the death penalty off the table. Let's see here. Can I ask a question? A bit off topic. If you don't mind, it's about the Tupac case. Vegas police have ordered a grand jury. This is a term we are not familiar with in the UK. What does it mean? Grand jury is basically, oh, yes, that's right, Tracy. That's right. Scales of Justice is going to be on in about 5 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up before that kicks off. But, you know, in terms of that, grand jury is basically something that happens where a judge gives somebody the authority to get together, some individuals to get together to hear testimony and evidence and stuff and determine whether or not a case should be brought to trial. So it's basically just like it's a review. There you go. Travis said it's like a review, and that's basically what it is. They're trying to review whether or not a case should be brought to trial, you know. Right. And isn't that in 4 minutes, Jane? 2 p.m. 2 a.m. your time? That should be in 4 minutes. Ant-Man. Hey, check it out, buddy. Listen up. I'm going to put you on the screen. Hey, listen up, buddy. You have the power to go FOIA those things. Do it. Foul play is the one that FOIA'd them. If they choose to respect Brendan's wishes, that's their right. That's their right. Quit crying. Go make your own FOIA request. Quit trying to say that foul play's the bad guy. They're not the bad guy. You have the ability to file an FOIA just like anybody else. Link for Scales of Justice. Let me see if I can get you one of those. Jesus, why is it going down the list? What the hell? There we go. Okay, here is the link to Tracy. She is starting in 1 minute and 25 seconds. So I am going to share this link with you. And then I am going to wrap up here. There's the link to Tracy's live. I will see you guys over there. She's going to be talking to her daughter today. Very interesting. Going to be a lot of forensic talk and that sort of thing. So it should be very interesting. Look forward to seeing you all over there. Go over there now. She's going to be starting any second. We'll see you, folks. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and we'll see you.